This is Roy. I'm a HR services consultant. I'm part of Asia HR's consulting team.
Hi, folks. My name is Anand. My pronouns are he, him, his. I'm a senior HR service advisor and I'm part of the HR advisory team.
Hi, everybody. My name is Mehdi. I'm part of HR services based in Hyderabad.
We are so excited to bring this session to you. What we're going to do today is basically demystify HR service delivery operating model. We will talk about moments that matter. We will talk about the stories that you've shared with us in the last few weeks. We will also talk about the impact that we get to create as one team. And I think the best way to start this conversation is by asking, what is HR services?
Definitely, Roy. We are a team that provide at-scale HR transactional support to employees in more than 100 countries in Microsoft. We operate in 7 different locations, including our new scale service center in Manila. And we are a big team of 700 plus professionals who come together to create a world-class experience for more than 180,000 employees. Isn't it interesting, Roy?
That's fantastic. When I joined Microsoft, Anand, one of the things that took me time to understand is, we're a big team. But how do I know who does what? I'm part of service delivery organization, but there's so many other teams that form together this big umbrella of HR services. So it was my onboarding buddy who then helped explain the entire process to me. And I'd love to share what I've learned about the operating model, right? When we talk about HR service operating model, we definitely start with global service management team. Now, this is a team that reviews all the policies. They create personalized and scalable processes. For example, if there's a new policy on benefit, it's this team that puts together a structured process and a readiness material around how to respond to employees when they inquire about the new policy. And once this team has fully aligned on the process structure, it then comes to service delivery organization to use that structure and provide support at scale.
Great to know that you have a great onboarding buddy, Roy. I also wanted to talk about one of the teams that is a big part of HR services is HR DNA team. So as HR professionals, we are a custodian of employee data. So it is so critical for us to be intentional about how do we use the data, right? And what do we do with the data? So in DNA, we have enterprise data mastery, which looks into the data rules, data management, PCN management. And this team also helps set rules in terms of job title, taxonomy, which sort of then empowers managers to create a clarity for the employees to identify where their role actually fits in the larger ecosystem. And we have another team which is like data integrity, which focuses on the data health by centralizing the audit and then adding controls and then checking the health of the system. And they also manage upload support for rewards, which is very vital and critical. And also the fiscal year rollover process.
Anand, when we talk about data, we need to talk about payroll. Within DNA, we also have pay data team that specifically looks at payroll aspect, optimizing wage types, looking at how should data be captured in the system? How do we reduce things like Excel when we are sharing payroll files to our partners? Another important part of DNA is modernizing operations. This team looks at optimization opportunities end to end. DNA has so many incredible charters that focuses on data.
I totally second it, Roy. Another team that is super fundamental to our success is business excellence team. So which continuously helps build business continuity muscle. This team also helps us relook at how do we store digital assets? How do we store and handle personal data? And how do we look at accessibility? And they also help us with the risk and compliance. And we also have the business portfolio management team that helps us look at the capacity, readiness, global portfolio management, and setting the objective and key results.
Thank you for sharing that, Anand. We also have HR Digital Employee Experiences team, HR Digital Strategy Innovation and Architecture team, Viva Product Development team, but we'll talk about these teams in detail another day. Today, we'll talk about Digital Transformation team, which executes and delivers all HR digital initiatives. This team helps build that roadmap of what technology should look like for HR. And they manage several projects like Project Cartier, which is to do with time and attendance, Project Hermes for mobility, and modern support experiences, AVA, CRM, the things that you and I use on a daily basis. So what I'm trying to say is, we're one big function, but to deliver the true world-class experience, it then takes all these amazing teams to come together and create strong impact for Microsoft.
Wow, I'm so super happy to know about this, Roy. Maybe I know today we are going to double click on HR services. And HR services is pretty huge by itself. How do you then break this down for us?
Thank you so much for that, Roy and Anand. I think that was really a fantastic overview of then how HR services works. What I want to do now is basically take a click down into HR service delivery. One of the questions I get very often is, who does what and why? Right? So I want to just break this down into 4 segments, which should be easy for you to remember and easy for us to understand then as well. So firstly, when we kind of look at then our regional service delivery model, we have then regional services being provided for the Americas out of Mexico City, for Europe then out of Prague, for IMEA, APAC, and ANZ out of Hyderabad, and then also in country for both GCR and then Japan as well. What are these regional services? Basically, it's our hire to retire services, which are HR advisory, benefits, time and leave, new hire, offboarding, immigration, employee moves and data, and then the latest to join the party is then HR services consulting. So these service lines really focus on regional delivery then in our regional construct. The second, and equally exciting, is sort of the new kid on the block, I would say. So the latest addition to our service delivery network, which is our scale center in Manila. So the purpose of our scale center in Manila is basically to provide then services at scale to Europe as well as the Americas. Processes which can be repeated based on volume and need. And then we'll be providing services then for the new hire service line and the employee moves and data service line for both then Europe as well as the Americas from our Manila center. Then the third bucket is then global service delivery. So, global as it sounds is we have a construct where we support from one team or 2 teams based on business resiliency. And by business resiliency, I mean, we don't want everything in one location. We want a backup location which can pick up the work. But in a sense, it's globally viewed. So we manage that service for all countries. And then you've got global access management, which is supported out of Hyderabad with our then resiliency location being then GCR. We have then external operations, which is also supported between then Hyderabad and Mexico City. We have total rewards, which is then managed, again, currently from Hyderabad location. And again, we've set up a new team called Central Data Management, which is based in Hyderabad as well. And finally, team, the 4th part of the puzzle is our field HR services. This is our great team, which basically looks at in-country support or last-mile execution support. So if there's any work which can't be then done in the center or which has to be done from then our in-country locations, be it language, be it local language dependency, be it any other legal regions, then it's been taken care of by our field HR service delivery. So to summarize, great question. HR service delivery, break it into regional service, scale service, global service, and then our field delivery team in country.
Wow. Thank you, Mary, for breaking it down for us and making it easier to understand. One of the things that I often think about is, while we do thousands of employee transactions day in and day out, it's important for us to also remember why we do what we do. As one of our leaders in the delivery organization, Mary, how do you see this incredible team connect and serve to the vision of Microsoft, which is to empower every individual on the planet?
I think, Roy, you said it there, right? The vision of the company, empower every individual on the planet to achieve more. Let me just add to that. We are empowering the people who are empowering everybody on the planet to achieve more, right? So our job is to make life easier for those managers and those employees who are working day in and day out, be it on AI, be it on Microsoft 365, be it on any of the other cool products which are game-changing to empower every person on the planet. Our job is to kind of make sure that they don't have to spend tons of time on what they need as an employee, be it a policy, be it a benefit, and how can we take care of all of that so they can go focus on the business, which is empowering every person on the planet to achieve more. And when I kind of look at it in another way, right? A lot of people say, oh, this is HR operations, or this is HR services, or this is back end. A leader at Microsoft told me something really interesting. He said, Mehdi, for maybe 95% of employees at Microsoft, in their career with Microsoft, they'll never speak to an HR manager. They'll never speak to an HR business partner. So for 95% of the company, we are HR. I mean, just listen to that for a minute, right? That's so amazing. And in HR services, we are at the foundation of services, right? People don't get paid without us. People don't get promoted without us. People don't get their benefits on time without us, right? So we are HR and we're fundamental to what HR does. And that's our purpose.
Thank you, Mehdi. I mean, this is such a powerful reminder. Thank you for sharing that. Anand, you've been with Microsoft for more than 6 years now, and you've seen several thousands of employees get onboarded in your tenure. What do you think a new hire experience for an external candidate looks like?
Wow, that's my favorite subject, Roy. New hire process is, pretty close to my heart because that's the first opportunity for us to show our employees what a true Microsoft experience looks like. It takes more than 12 teams, both inside and outside of HR services, to come together and to provide a world-class onboarding experience. And the team that anchors the entire process is our new hire team. So it all starts with PCN creation, requisition setup, recruitment process that is managed by GTA, an offer letter process that's taken care by GTA Ops. So once the candidate accepts the offer, it then comes to the new hire team, who will then work with the background vendor, which will again take 15 working days. So once the BGV is successful, then the team works on aligning the start date by contacting the new hires with both manager and employee, and those conversations can take time, sometimes back and forth too. Once that is done, the hire completion action takes place in iSeams. So now it's just a step that confirms that we have closed the requisition. The actual and crucial part of hiring isn't complete yet, actually. So we have the verification process. We then initiate it in the tool, our Employee Central, and the employees are requested to submit all the statutory documents and other important documents as a part of their onboarding process. So once the employee completes the documentation, we finally verify each information to ensure there is no confusion post-hiring. And wait, it still doesn't stop there. We then get several teams involved in, like RA&F team, GSAM, IT, business admin, because employee needs access card, ID, laptop, everything on day one. So once this is done, we then set up for our new employee orientation process. Then we inform our payroll and benefits vendor to get them added in the portal. And we only get 7 days between the background completion and the start date to anchor the whole process. So our new hire team's responsibility is to ensure nothing gets slipped through the crack while working with 12 different teams. So while we do all of this, the last thing that we want the employee to be worried about is how many teams do they need to speak in order to get their things done. For them, it is only one team, which is the Ask HR team. So it's not about setting them on the system, but it is about being there for them right from the offer accept stage all the way through their onboarding completion.
Very well said that, Anand. Thank you for sharing that. And when we help onboard the best talents at Microsoft, it's that even more important to take care of them. And that's where employee support experience standards come to my mind, which is empower me, help me, advise me. We're not just focused on building capability within ourselves as HR services, but we're continuously empowering our employees to get more work done at less time by using the right tools that we have in place. Did you know 1 million tickets get created each year in HR service delivery? That's a massive number. And when we talk about operating at scale, that's where digital transformation kicks in. One of the transformations we did was Ava, using AI to answer HR queries in personalized and conversational ways 24/7 across all time zones. I mean, how fantastic is that? I could wake up literally in the middle of the night and have a HR query answered right then and there. Having that sophisticated AI support really doesn't take away the work that you and I do. It rather enhances the work that you and I do. And it also helps us refocus, if you think about it. The other day, someone was telling me that Ava is going full speed with learning. It put a smile on my face because it's actually us that is enabling Ava to learn at full speed. AVA is basically a system where you feed in information, you build responses with some preemptive questions, right? And to give a better example, let's think about an offboarding scenario. An employee who wants to exit Microsoft, they might have questions around, when will I get my full and final settlement done? How do I know how much vacation balance I'm going to get paid, right? Putting that information into AVA would reduce significant parts of query management for us as individuals. Each one of us should make it a top priority to continuously look for topics, responses for each processes that can move from CRM responding ways to then AVA. And have the discussion with your service line manager. That is really us enabling the digital transformation journey every single day as individuals. Mehdi, what do you think about AVA? And a follow-up to that, what do you see as the North Star of digital transformation for HR services?
Wow, what a great question. Two of my favorite topics to talk about. I think firstly, before I kind of talk about either of these topics, you asked me about the Ask HR virtual assistant and also, the digital transformation and sort of what's my North Star for us as an organization. First of all, the bots are not coming anymore. The bots are here. Artificial intelligence isn't coming. It's part of our life. Like, it's so amazing. Last week, I'm sure you saw Microsoft announced, how we're sort of bringing Bing back. I want to say back from the dead, but I didn't say that. I just did. But in a way, it's true, right? Like, Bing has been obsolete for a long time. And now to actually see us re-energize that with artificial intelligence and some of the goodness we're seeing with ChatGPT, how exciting is that, right? So the bots are not coming. They're here. AI is not coming, it's here, and it's a huge part of Microsoft. Now, to your specific question about the virtual assistant. About 2-3 years ago, the conversation really used to be, wow, we're handling, 100,000 cases in HR advisory. Every month for India, we get about 6,000 cases. For the USA, maybe 10,000 and different numbers. And we're handling them at an NSAT level of 180, a DISSAT level of 5%. It's great. Don't get me wrong. It's fantastic that we're performing great. However, the question has changed, right? The question now is actually not, wow, we get so many cases. The question is, why the hell are we getting so many cases? What's it going to take to reduce that 10,000 to 2,000? And I think that's where the virtual assistant comes in. And that's where it's so exciting, right? I almost look at us as boticians, right? Where we're going to take care of the bot. I'm serious. We have to look at feeding the bot, taking care of the bot, constantly upgrading the bot, and making the bot as beautiful, and by beautiful, I mean efficient, intelligent as possible. And that's through constant reiteration, right? The more we do that, the more intelligent it becomes, the more employee inquiries it can feel at the first stage. So, right now we're talking about HR advisory. The virtual assistant is going to be everywhere, not just in HR services, in HR. And it's a super exciting journey. And I think we have a huge part to play because, like I said, we're writing content, we're training the bots, we're refining knowledge. It's super exciting. And it's going to be a big part of our journey then over the next sort of 3 to 5 years and onwards. All right. Now, when it comes to what, excites me about the future, the North Star I see for HR services, very recently, Chris kind of announced then a new team in our HR services organization, which was a team looking at digital strategy and architecture. Right? And, that excites me so much personally because, right now we're a support function. We support then employees and managers at Microsoft. We support HR at Microsoft. But with this new team, the thought process is, why can't we look at Microsoft products and solutions and work with our business partners, our IT partners to sort of test them out, dog food them from an HR point of view and look at, can we create any solutions which we can actually not just use ourselves, but leverage to use in the market, right? Why can't we look at Dynamics, for example, to look at then launching some of those solutions as an HR offering in the market? So for me, that evolution, and it's not that far away, where in 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, we'll be looking at being a part of that journey where some of our product could actually then be things we want to sell and market. Personally, and everyone's answer is different, but personally, that excites me hugely.
Thanks, Mehdi. I always get super excited when we talk about digital transformation in Microsoft. We started off as JHRO, then we became a regional service center. In addition to the regional, we also have global teams like global access management, rewards, external operations, and now we have our new scale service center at Manila. Our operating model has continuously evolved year after year. And we talk about volume to value. That one team that comes to my mind is HRS consulting. So, what does consulting with HR services do?
Thank you for that question, Anand. Let me share that with an example. When an employee say they are going through a personal situation in their life and they need to take some time away from work to maybe refocus or get their health back on track, not every employee would have sufficient leave balance to do that. So, from an employee well-being perspective, Microsoft has several options, and one of that is leave of absence, which allows the employees to unplug and focus on them or their family, or basically disconnect from work for a particular amount of time. Now, when an employee reaches out to ask HR inquiring about PLOA, personal leave of absence, that's when consulting team immediately steps in, connects with the employee, creates an environment where employees can trust and share what's really going on. And we partner with the business to then help enable that break for the employees. In situations where it's an extended medical issue, we assure the employee that we're going to do everything possible in our capacity to support them during this difficult time. We also partner with external medical professionals to review the medical documents of the employee. We make sure that we do this in privacy compliant ways so that information is not viewed by someone who is not supposed to see it. We let the medical experts explain to us what the employee is going through and how we can support them as a business during this difficult time. We take that up, we consult with the business, we provide them clear context on how we can support the employee. We also coach the business to have strong backup plan. We align with the employees on when they can expect to return so that the business can put a temporary plan on how the projects are going to function. The work doesn't end there. When the employees come back, helping them settle back into the role becomes super critical. When employees come back from LOA, we help them gradually return to work. The return to work policy changes country to country, but as a HRS consulting team, we do our best to make sure employees feel 100% okay to come back and do what they love doing. While we're having all these conversations, Anand, it's super important for us to then balance business priorities while making sure that we put our employees first, no matter what. And as we continue talking through the work that we do in service delivery, another thing that comes to my mind is how do we provide support for services that requires in-country local presence? Some things that we cannot centralize and do it in service centers. How do we manage that?
Yeah, that's exactly where our HR field service delivery comes into picture. So while the employee's lifecycle activities are managed by the service center, this incredible team that supports us with all the activities that needs to be done locally, right from documentation to statutory reports to neo facilitation, internal external audit, maintaining alignment with regulatory and changes, and more on. Let's take an example. If there is a document that requires a local language translation, the service center cannot do this. This is the team that we always reach out to. And let's take an example. If the government is asking in a particular country how many employees are approaching the retirement date, okay, this is the team that works with the reporting team and then get the data for the government. And if there is a need for someone to visit the local office to get things done from a HR perspective, this is the team that we reach out to. And also, this team also acts as a bridge between GeoHR and the service delivery team in driving any policy, process, or any statutory changes. So when we talk about providing end-to-end HR support at scale, then definitely we should take into consideration the local nuances, right? So that's exactly why where this team adds so much value to the work that we do.
That's lovely, Anand. And Mehdi, when we talk about end-to-end HR support, it's also important to provide clarity to employees on how a certain process looks like from the beginning to the end. When we create clarity on the processes, on the timelines, it then becomes so much easier for our employees to know what they're supposed to do, and most importantly, when they're supposed to do it. In service delivery, we always talk about creating clarity. How do you look at this?
Wow. What a great question, Roy. Creating clarity. It's a deep topic. I want to talk about creating clarity, but I also want to talk about moments that matter, right? last year as part of a move, a bunch of us shifted, including me, from Chennai to Hyderabad. That's then shifting between one city and another in the country, and it was complex. And I also, in Microsoft, if you want to take another example, shifted then, did my international transfer from Mexico City to, again, India about 3 years ago. Now, when I kind of think of moments that matter, these are big moments in an employee's life, big moments then in the life of a family, right? And at that time, having absolute clarity of what my next steps were is super important, right? So, in this example, which I took, shifting from Mexico City to then, Chennai, India, at that point of time, it starts with, so many teams and so many parties involved. It starts with GTA rolling out the offer. Then you have the immigration team providing support from an immigration perspective. Then you have a mobility team advising on relocation. Then you have the payroll team, because obviously the pay is going to change. Insurance needs to be taken care of. Benefits need to be registered in another country. If there's any challenge in the transfer, the receiving manager and the sending manager need to sync. And then, of course, the employee data and moves team within HR services needs to be involved. So, with those 8-9 teams getting involved, and we handle, hundreds of transfers, right? But for me, my employee, that one transfer was my moment of truth, right? And that's why creating clarity and having absolute excellence in this complex process is super important for us, because one misstep there can have huge consequences, right? I'll give you a small example. Like, when we are, for example, providing information to the recruiter, saying, how long would it take to get that visa in India? And let's say it takes 6 months. And by mistake, we misread a DTP, we're not careful, we look at another country's guidance and issue it for India. And instead of that 6 months, we say 2 months. That just spirals that whole process out of place, right? In that situation, you'd have an employee who might have resigned a previous job, unemployed for 3-4 months. You might have an employee in a new country without medical coverage for themselves. You might have an employee taking a break in employment just because we gave a small wrong information. So that's why the clarity we create and making sure that we have set the right expectation at the right time with lots of empathy and lots of precision is super important in every process we do. But in some of the more complex processes, like I just explained, it is critical.
Yeah, maybe. That's a huge process. I'm so proud of the work that our team is doing. So one of the interesting things, Roy, that you talked about was LOA. How does LOA play out when it comes to rewards? That's something that I'm always curious to know about.
Data accuracy is fundamental to rewards. For example, if our HR system shows a particular employee being on LOA for a certain period of time, rewards team is going to take that information and derive bonus eligible salary according to that. But let's say the employee forgot to inform the HR team that they are back from LOA. It ends up affecting their rewards completely. Or let's say the employee did come back with the right information, but the dates that we captured in the system were incorrect. Now, this ends up impacting the total rewards for the employee. From a complexity perspective, our global rewards team cannot simply pull out one report and apply a standard approach for all the countries in terms of how they calculate bonus eligible salary for employees in LOA. Each country has its own nuances. For example, in one country, we can consider parts of maternity period as bonus eligible period for rewards. But in other countries, it's a big no-no. It then becomes rewards team responsibility to speak to all the HR leaders to understand, hey, if there's any exception this year that needs to be made, let us know. This happens every annual cycle. They proactively perform several audits and they work with total rewards team, program teams, solutions managers, regional HRs, TRC leads, data integrity services, employee moves and data teams. It does take a village to complete each reward cycle. And all through this, one must remember that data accuracy becomes a non-negotiable.
Yes, I totally get it. How critical it is for the team to be super conscious during reward cycle. Uh, I love that you talked about the purpose in the beginning, Mehdi. Our purpose is to empower every employee, that is, empowering every person in the planet to achieve more. One cannot empower without showing care first. So, how do we then demonstrate care on our day-to-day life in HR services?
It's a great question again. I think, first of all, what is CARE, right? CARE is this acronym I really love, which really talks about communication, accountability, being resourceful, and then most importantly, empathy, right? And it's very important to understand that these are the behaviors our customers expect from us, right?
True.
And out of these behaviors, I just want to start with communication. Communicate effectively, right? We have to make sure that the employee knows that A, they're important, their inquiry is important, or their situation is important. And also our understanding that, each circumstance is unique, right? Secondly, is have we understood everything the employee said? Sometimes it's not just about what's in email, right? The biggest skill is about kind of also answering what has been left unsaid or what is going to be a follow-up question. Big part about communication, right? How can we make sure we're providing accurate, complete, empathetic responses using a warm and relaxed tone? And basically making sure that we're paying attention to the employee cues, right? What type of language are they using, right? Either in their email, their phone call, Teams chat. What is the sense of urgency? And that tone and understanding that tone, and also using that same tone, make sure that the employee knows that you're understanding their sense of urgency, their expectation. And finally, with communication, guys, more is good, right? Frequent updates, making sure, even if you don't have an update, saying, you know what, leave this with me. I continue to work on it, right? That's exactly what an employee needs. And it's so important, communicating effectively.
Thanks, Mary. I also like to add on top of that taking accountability and being resourceful is also, is one of the way that you show care to the employees, right? So what I mean by that is like my 6 successful years in Microsoft is one of the key success is because of being accountable of the work that I do, and there are something that we have to be always mindful about when we take care of the accountability part. One is like asking probing proper questions to the employees, and we ensure that we provide right resolution for them, and demonstrating end-to-end case management and setting the expectation right with the customers. And third one is like explaining in clear and conscious manner so that the time that you take to resolve the case is very prompt, and whenever there is a follow-up that is required, please do it gracefully with the employees. And next one is whenever there is a help that is required, so feel free to reach out to your colleagues or your manager, and proactively protecting the data privacy again by applying the privacy by design principles. And next one is being resourceful. So when we talk about being resourceful, identifying the correct team or person to resolve the case. So we have this one thing in HR advisory. When we get a case and we don't know what to do with the case because we don't have the proper knowledge, we go, ask for data, like information from multiple teams, MSW, HR web, and then when we find an answer for the solution for the question, that is where we feel more success. Likewise, collaborating internally with the multiple teams. This is also, one of the main point of being resourceful. And then performing a thorough handoff actually. And triaging is a key for, services business. And, ensuring the case is not misrouted. And then the notes that you updated in the CRM. Okay, so it is helpful for the other advisor or other partner who is actually handling the case so that, they would be able to provide end-to-end proper resolution to that. And third one is like being enthusiastic and knowledgeable about the Microsoft process and then leaving a best impression with the employee. I really love the fact that you spoke that 90% of the employees in Microsoft does not talk to the HR manager or the HR business partner. For them, Ask HR is the HR. So I think it is always good to leave that best impression for the employee so that when they have any HR related queries, they always reach out back to us. And finally, utilizing the available HR resources, be it HR web or global process repository, and then troubleshoot cases before reaching out to manager. And last but not least, when you find that you are in trouble, or when you find that employee seems to be upset, or your case has multiple activities, feel free to reach out to your buddy or your colleague or your manager. So these are all something I think we have to be very considerate about, like being resourceful and taking accountability.
Thank you for sharing that. So that's communicate effectively, show accountability, be resourceful. And I think it finally then comes down to be empathetic, show empathy. And what I mean by that is personalized responses with meaningful content. Always use positive language that shows that you understand the way the employee feels or is impacted. Put yourself in the employee's shoes. Demonstrate an understanding of the question or issue from an employee's perspective. Making sure that we have checked all the employee information and history available in internal resources, Employee Central, SAP, before actually going back to the employee. Anticipating customer needs and approaching the situation holistically, I think that's fundamental. Entering relevant, accurate, easy to understand case notes. When we're passing a case from one team to another team, we don't want the second team asking the same questions that the first team has asked already. And finally, ensuring that any proposed solutions or outcomes are achievable as presented. Providing status updates, even if we don't have an update, going back to the employee, letting them know that we're still looking into it, and fulfilling all the follow-ups with the employee. I think these are super important when it comes to care element. Going back to the conversation around the scale of this team, one of the things that I realize is that we continue to evolve. We never stop. And that means incredible learning opportunities. I mean, one can start with new hire, go to GAM, offboarding. I mean, there's endless opportunities. So Mehdi, what would you say to someone who is looking to build a career in HR services?
Wow, what a great question, Roy. And let me not answer this traditionally. Let me put both of you on the spot for a second. I mean, if I just look at both you wonderful gentlemen who are making your career with HR services at Microsoft, your journeys are different, right? So Anand, you've been here for 6 years. You've been in the HR advisory team, which is one team, and done various roles in that team and grown incredibly then within the same team to handle more responsibility. And today, even have some people directly in your team. Only one team. And it's pretty amazing when I look at your journey, Anand, that you've always been obsessed with, just the employee experience and knocking each then case out of the park. And that's your growth. And it's pretty incredible. I don't even know if you've looked at it this way, but you must have handled more than 10,000 employee inquiries, Anand, in your last 10 years. So, it's very academic to say you've been in one team because that 10,000 inquiries has led you to learn about the entire model and put you as part of this panel presenting today and explaining the model, right? And Roy, you've been with us, I think, about 2.5 years now. You joined us then with immigration, and about 18 months down the line, you saw a role which really excited you in HR services consulting. You had a chat with your manager at that time, and your manager didn't stop you from applying. There was no hard and fast rule that, okay, you have to complete X number of years to be eligible. You applied and now you're thriving in your new role. So what does that mean? I think there are different paths to career. There is no one single path or one single template. Having said that, I will say a few things, right? I mean, what I said about Anand and Roy, it applies equally to you. Every single day in your role, strive to provide then world-class employee experiences. If you have an average experience, how will you make it great? If you have a great experience, how are you going to make it world-class, right? And whatever you're doing, do that to the best of your abilities, because that is what will help you grow. That will attract then curiosity from other managers and other teams. The second thing I would say is the collaboration. I talked about then, being boundaryless. It's about really looking at how do you help people within your team, how do you help people within the center, and how do you even help people across HR services? And what I would then also say, finally, is being patient. Right? I think patience also is so important when people look at career development. Everyone wants a new job in 6 months. It doesn't exactly work like that. And again, another short thing I'll say from a leader I learned that in Microsoft. And this leader told me, in year 1 in role, you're kind of figuring out what the hell you're doing. In year 2, you start really performing, start really getting into your job. and it's year 3 and 4, you really sort of knock it out of the park, right? So patience also plays a big part in long-term career development here at Microsoft. I mean, I've enjoyed talking about then, career development at HR services. But Roy, Anand, what do you guys think?
That's so positive, Magdi. I totally love it hearing from you. Looking back at my career in Microsoft, it has been an incredible journey with so much of learning each day. And also, I had best peers and mentors who totally helped me grow here. In last 6 years, I have seen this company evolve, our service delivery organization getting expanded, processes rapidly changing, and so much more. This place has given me a complete confidence to be my authentic self.
Oh, no, I totally second that. Thanks, Mehdi, for saying that. When I joined Microsoft in 2020 as immigration manager, that particular role changed the way I looked at compliance, government policies, business continuity. It helped me build so many muscles around vendor management, change management, and so much more. In my connects with you, Mehdi, we talked about my career aspirations, and that's when HRS consulting came along. This role is very different from immigration. Here, you get to provide consultation support day in and day out to HR leaders, business leaders, managers, employees, and that's very different. And looking back, I'm so grateful that we get to be boundaryless in this team when we think about learning and growth.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Roy. Team, I'm so happy that we had this wonderful opportunity to bring this session to you.
Thank you, team. I hope this session helped you see how the day-to-day work that you and I do, the conversations that we have, the processes that we discuss, the partnerships that we drive intentionally, it then all comes together to help create a world-class experience that we want for all our employees.
Wow, what fun. Really had a great time speaking to all of you. Roy, Anand, it's been invigorating talking to you. Love the passion you have for delivery and the way we work and our employee experience. Team, to close us out for this session, just 3 things I kind of want to talk about. I think the first thing is be curious. Have that challenger mindset to ask questions. After your new hire process, what happens? After we enroll someone in benefits, what happens? What is the next step once we finish our part? Even service line to service line, that curiosity is just such a great thing to have to understand our model and the way HR functions then much better. The second one is definitely look at connecting the dots. Don't look at your service line, your piece of the puzzle. Always look at things from beginning to end. Look at experiences, not particular processes. And that's going to help as well. Don't even look at it as one team. Look at it as a workflow from beginning to end. And finally, what I'll say is, it's all about collaboration. It's all about being boundaryless. It's all about thinking beyond than what your day-to-day role is. Definitely encourage you to look at stretch assignments, learning about other service lines, learning about other teams in HR services, doing rotations to learn more and get yourself out of the comfort zone. So be curious, connect the dots, be boundaryless. Team, it's been a wonderful time then talking to you today. I hope you've enjoyed the last 45 so minutes. Thank you so much for your engagement and participating. Thank you. Sign off. Bye.